Empty notebooks, fresh binders, a new class schedule. The 2021 back-to-school season is officially in full swing as millions settle into their new busy routines. Last fall, more than 48 million students attended public school classes, ranging from kindergarten to 12th grade, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. This year, while many are eager to be back in classrooms, this highly anticipated return has been clouded by rising COVID cases as the Delta variant continues to spread. This has led to heated debates around masking, protocols, and has once again raised levels of uncertainty and anxiety for millions of parents, educators, and students. For children specifically, it's been a tough 19 months. Between March and May of last year, hospitals across the country saw a 24% increase in the number of mental health emergency visits by kids ages 5 to 11, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Being away from familiar faces, trying to sit still on Zoom, and seeing the effects of a scary virus on TV can sometimes be too much to deal with. This anxiety can present itself in unexpected ways, like tantrums or bouts of silence. So, how can parents talk to their children and show support?
It's such an unusual year, and it's such an unusual experience. A lot of children haven't been in school for over a year. So they might have some trepidation. Some kids are going to be very excited, and that's easy to talk to kids about how exciting it is to be able to go back to school and be with their friends. But some kids are going to be a little nervous. They don't know the teacher. They don't know the routines.
That's Julie King, a longtime parent educator, a parent to 3 herself, and the co-author of How to Talk When Kids Won't Listen: Whining, Fighting, Meltdowns, Defiance, and Other Challenges of Childhood. King says too often many parents tend to bluntly reassure and move on in times of stress or uncertainty. However, it can be more useful to listen first and then acknowledge what the child is feeling.
If you think about it for yourself, think about a time that you were scared of something and someone told you, oh, that's nothing to worry about, just calm down. Did that make you feel better? Or did that make you feel sort of lonely with your fear? The thing about fear is that it doesn't go away just because we explain to people that they're wrong to feel that way. So it can be counterintuitive for a lot of us. We're afraid that if we acknowledge that negative feeling, that it will make it stronger. But in reality, it's such a relief to have someone accept your negative feelings, and it helps you let go of them. And those negative feelings could be fear, it could be anger, it could be frustration, it could be nervousness about going into a new classroom, having new kids in the school. But when you acknowledge those feelings and show them that you get it, it helps them deal with it.
For example, if a child is still feeling anxious about school after the first few weeks, it can be helpful to listen, recognize their feelings, and then lead them through what will happen once they walk through those doors.
Sometimes young children are actually helped if we write down, maybe even tell a story, make a little storybook with some pictures of what's going to happen. We're going to walk in the front door. You're going to hang up your backpack. You know, a lot of kids get nervous when they walk into a classroom full of children. Oftentimes in the preschools, there's a lot of activities that are already set out, and we can walk around and look and see what's at the art table, what's at the dress-up corner, and then choose something to do. Or if there's some children who are playing together, maybe you want to go and watch what they're doing and then say, here, can I help with this part of the puzzle or this part of the block tower?
King says that in addition to removing the unknowns of school, it's important to stick to a routine that starts kids off on the right foot. Too often, she sees families begin the school year by following a set morning and evening schedule, but as the weeks go by, it all starts to slide.
We need to attend to our kids' basic needs. Are they getting enough sleep? It's actually very hard to make sure that our kids are getting enough sleep when they have to get up earlier than their bodies want to and rush and get out the door. And on top of that, I'm seeing a lot of families who have dinner on the late side, and then the kids are resisting bedtime, and they're waking up tired, and then we're repeating that cycle. So getting kids enough sleep, meeting their basic needs, that would be number one. Number two is to understand that kids, they don't see the point of rushing the way we do, especially young children. I found it easier when my kids were teenagers that they could look at the clock and have some idea of what it meant. But little kids just don't even know, don't have a sense of time.
Many of us are familiar with the crazing morning rush. parents frantically running to get ready as half-asleep children meander around the house leisurely eating some cereal. King says that instead of constantly yelling to get going in the morning, create a written to-do list of what needs to be done before heading out the door.
Then it doesn't become a nagging situation where I'm saying, honey, stop, put your shoes on, get your backpack, stop playing, you're supposed to get your backpack now. That, nobody likes that. So a list doesn't nag, it's quiet. And a lot of kids like to go over and look at the list, and the list tells them what they have to do next. And don't think that you have to wait until your kids can read to make a list. Even young children can look at a list that has pictures of their shoes and their backpacks and their hats and their coats and figure out what to do.
King acknowledges that some mornings can be absolute chaos, but it's important not to transfer that stress and anxiety over to your children.
Sometimes I think we parents get into our go, go, go mode, like, oh, we have to get a lot done because we have to get out the door, and we feel pressured, and we transmit that sense of pressure to our kids. So it can be helpful first to connect with them before we start talking about what we need to do.
And once students come back from the demands of a packed school day, they're tired. But like always, there's more to do. Usually this means some form of homework.
We tend to imagine that all the other kids are calmly sitting down at the kitchen table, practicing their penmanship, and cheerfully drawing 3 items that begin with the letter B, and that your kid is the only one who's having a major meltdown, right, and weeping over the worksheet. And when we tell them, just do it, get it over with, if you spend half as much time working as you do complaining, it would have been finished a long time ago. But saying that just doesn't help at all. It just makes a child more upset.
King equates this homework hump to any challenge that an adult deals with. How would you feel if you said you were exhausted and frustrated, and the response you received had no sympathy or support?
Imagine that you come home from a long day at work, and you say to your partner, ugh, I can't believe how unreasonable my boss is. I've been slaving away at this report all day, and now he's insisting that I finish it tonight. I'm exhausted. It's going to take me hours. I don't think I have it in me. I'm not being paid for this. When do I get to relax and do what I want to do? This is just so stressful. I don't have a life. Imagine that your partner replies, well, you just have to do it. You better stop complaining and get started. Of course, you have to finish the report. You can't afford to lose your job. Just as your child may not be able to get away with skipping out on the homework. The teacher might keep him in from recess, or maybe he's going to get enough homework zeros to fail the class. But it just, doesn't make you feel good when you get that kind of response.
Sometimes just listening and acknowledging a person's feelings can be the best way forward. Past that, King says, if your child is still having problems finishing a task, give them some solutions.
You might offer the child a choice. Do you want to work at the table, or do you want to maybe do your homework under the table? Do you want to do it in your room alone? Or would you like to do it in the living room while I'm making the salad? Do you want to do it with music on? Some kids actually concentrate better with some sort of background noise. Or would you rather have some quiet?
And in some cases, a short break can help a kid refresh and refocus.
The thing about homework is that we need their cooperation for them to actually get anything out of it. If they're going to actually learn something from it, we need them to actually put some effort into it. So if a child is absolutely refusing, I'm going to ask myself why, and I'm going to try to address that underlying problem. I've had parents who said, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes, and I'm going to tell him, you do as much as you can for 20 minutes, and as long as you stick to it, even if you're not done, you'll be done with the homework for the day. And we've had really positive feedback from teachers who don't actually want to be overwhelming kids with a lot of homework and creating all this suffering at home, who say that's perfect. So don't be afraid to contact the teacher and say, there's a real problem here. It's just not working for my child.
Allowing flexibility and offering different choices can make the child more willing to tackle the problem. Once homework is done, dinner is finished, and the kids are asleep, it's time to go to bed, wake up, and do it all over again. Back-to-school season can be a very stressful period, so give yourself some support and understanding as well. To learn more about back-to-school tips and our guest, Julie King, visit viewpointsradio.org. Also, check out her book, How to Talk When Kids Won't Listen, available online and in bookstores. This segment was written by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price. Coming up on Viewpoints.
He had asked for a break. He was not given what he needed to stay safe, and he died, unfortunately, on his way home with his son.
Hotter temperatures are worsening conditions for millions of outdoor workers. What's being done? Then,
concrete, for instance, it's the second most highly consumed product on the planet.
Concrete, steel, wood. What makes some building materials better than others? I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.